Director of Ceremonies, Honorable Professor Peter Kashavivi, Speaker of the National Assembly, and founding Vice Chancellor of the University of Namibia. Honorable Nahas Angula, our former Prime Minister and founding Minister of Education in the Republic of Namibia. Honorable Ministers present, Professor Said Bakri Osman, President of the Association of African Universities, Professor Matengu, Vice Chancellor of the University of Namibia and President of the Pan-African University, Professor Olusola Bandele Oyewole, Secretary General of the AAU, board members of the AAU, rectors, vice chancellors, and presidents of African universities, delegates, invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a great honor to welcome you all on behalf of the government of the Republic of Namibia and to provide a synopsis of the higher education development in Namibia at this high-profile conference themed Advancing Excellence in African Higher Education. I strongly believe that the deliberations and outcome of this conference will have significant impact on the African education system. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I quote, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education," unquote. Namibia is honored to have been chosen through our premier university, UNAM, to host the 23rd 2023 Association of African Universities Conference of Vice Chancellors, Rectors, and Presidents of African Universities. Nations' higher education systems are the seeds of knowledge creation, skills development, new inventions through research and innovation, and through appropriately harnessing new emerging technologies. It is not a sheer coincidence that Africa's universities leadership is converging here in Windhoek, Namibia, at a time when humanity and the world need urgent answers to rising geopolitical tensions, rapid adverse effects of climate change, how best to embrace the fourth and fifth industrial revolution in the face of the pros and cons of AI, and in the face of the problem of youth unemployment, and in particular, graduates unemployment. Some of the challenges are, of course, human trafficking, drug abuse, and issues of inequality. I can go on and on. The African Agenda 2063 strategies on education dovetail to the Global Education 2030 program that contributes to the achievement of Goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals that calls for inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for all. The Continental Education Strategy for Africa calls for the paradigm shift towards transformative education and training systems to meet the knowledge, competency, skills, research, innovation, and creativity required to nurture the African core values and promote sustainable development. It is in this context that I would like to position my brief presentation on the overview of the development of higher education in our country. As you might be aware, education in Namibia before independence was under the control of the South African colonial government, with deliberate policies not to develop higher education. Namibians before independence in accessing higher education had to study at South African universities or internationally. Suffice to say, in the mid and late 80s, the South African colonial government set up three main tertiary institutions, namely the academy, teacher education colleges, and agricultural colleges. Albeit these institutions were established seemingly to provide access to tertiary education. However, access was extremely limited. For example, in 1989, only 3,443 Namibians had access to tertiary education in Namibia. It was against this backdrop that an education system for Namibia was conceived in exile to be implemented at independence in 1990. The University of Namibia was the forerunner of all the public tertiary institutions in Namibia, and it was founded by an Act of Parliament, Act 18 of 1992, following the recommendation of the 1991 Presidential Commission on Higher Education. This was followed by a promulgation of Act 33 of 1994 that founded the Polytechnic of Namibia and was repealed by the Namibia University of Science and Technology Act number 7 of 2015. To date, there are 3 public higher education institutions that include 2 public universities and 1 public college, namely the Namibia College of Open Learning, and approximately 16 registered private higher education institutions in our republic. From inception, the University of Namibia Act made provision for the institution to self-regulate in terms of quality assurance, approval, and accreditation of programs. However, the Higher Education Act, number 26 of 2003, provided for the establishment of the National Council for Higher Education. In terms of this act, NCHE was mandated to regulate higher education, accredit programs, register and deregister private higher education institutions. In addition, to provide a funding formula of public higher education institutions. Moreover, in addition to NCHE as a regulator, there are professional bodies that regulate professional programs, such as the Engineering Council of Namibia, Health Professional Councils of Namibia, Institute for Chartered Accountants, and the Law Society of Namibia. Esteemed delegates, the higher education system in Namibia is well regulated by several legal frameworks, namely the Higher Education Act, number 26 of 2003, with a mandate as alluded to earlier, Namibia Qualifications Authority, Act number 29 of 1996, to provide a national qualification framework for registration of qualifications and accreditation of institutions. Vocational Education and Training Act, number 1 of 2008, to regulate the provisions of vocational education and training and provide for the funding for vocational education and training. Namibia Student Financial Assistance Fund, Act number 26 of 2000, to provide financial assistance to eligible students at approved institutions of higher learning. Research, Science and Technology Act, number 23 of 2004, to provide for the promotion, coordination and development of research, science and technology in Namibia, and to establish a national commission on research, science and technology, and the Fund for Research, Science and Technology. As Nelson Mandela once said, and I quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which can be used to change the world," unquote. A lot has been achieved since independence in terms of access to higher education. As already stated, in 1989, for example, the student enrollment at the academy was 4,786, which included distance students. In 2021, according to the National Council on Higher Education report, the enrollment figures stood at 68,932. Despite the significant increase in student numbers, higher education institutions in Namibia face numerous challenges with regards to access, as not all aspiring students who seek admission to institutions of higher learning are admitted due to space limitations and limited student funding. Further, another challenge is disparities in academic achievements between female and male students. Since the attainment of independence, more female students have been graduating in most of the disciplines nationally. The latest data show that in 2021, of the 10,108 graduates, 7,212 were female students, compared to 2,816 who were male, which translates to 71.3% for females and 28.7% for male graduates. Investment in education, including higher education, has been a priority for the Namibian government since independence in 1990. For instance, in the 2023-24 national budget, 16.8 billion Namibian dollars was allocated to the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, and 3.8 billion Namibian dollars was allocated to higher education, technology, and innovation. This translates to 28.4% allocated to the education sector, which equates to 9.6% of GDP, making Namibia one of the countries with the highest expenditure on education in the world. Despite the huge investment in education, access and equity and other imperatives of quality and excellence in higher education, such as sustained student experiences, infrastructure, and equipment for research and innovation, remain impediments to achieve desired outcomes. Referring to Namibian President, Dr. Hage, he said, "Education is the foundation for a prosperous nation. It is through education that we build a knowledgeable society capable of overcoming challenges and embracing opportunities." Unquote. In conclusion, esteemed delegates, despite the high investment in education, access with equity is still a challenge in higher education. Funding to meet the demand for quality and equitable higher education in Namibia still need attention in our quest to respond to the required skills for the future workforce in this digital era. That is why this conference has come at an opportune time to share international experiences, forge linkages and collaboration as we interrogate challenges that confront the African higher education systems, with a view to achieve relevance, responsiveness, and excellence. Namibia is a product of international solidarity, and we look forward to attracting international students, as well as responding to SADC protocol on education and training in student and staff mobility, as well as joint research. With these remarks, I trust I have given you an appreciation of the Namibian education system. I now have the singular honor to declare this conference officially open, and I thank you.